Call him brash, brilliant, incredibly successful. Doug Moe is just a legend in the Denver sports community, but also really in the Colorado community. Of course, he was a hugely successful coach with the Denver Nuggets, but we want to talk a little bit more about the man. And that's why Ron Zappolo is joining us now. I know you worked here, you worked at Channel 4, you did radio, Ron worked at Fox
Doug's
31.
TV show for a while. It might have been the most fun I've ever had.
That's what we were going to ask about. You did a TV show with
Did a TV show with Doug, and it was I never thought that we could do one, and Roger Ogden used to work here. We sold it, and we would get on, and Doug would have all these big-name NBA coaches, and he'd cut them to shreds. Just cut them to shreds, and that was Doug. And your intro, Kim, was great because, if you think about Doug, and I thought a lot about Doug today, and I've cried a lot. I'm not going to cry here. I'm not going to cry here.
Thank you for coming in. It's been hard.
I'll tell you, if you consider how successful he was as a coach, how unique an individual, how colorful he was, and how kind he was, I would say that Doug was the most important and likable sports figure we've ever had in Denver.
Wow.
I really do, and I put him above everybody else because he was here before the Elway, before the Broncos got good, before Dan Reeves. Doug put us on the map and made us big time in basketball. And then not only that, he was so different.
Yeah.
If Doug liked you, you were a stiff. If he really liked you, you were a no-hoper. And if he just loved you, you were a dip. And he was the king of the dips. And I could tell you a million stories. And I told you just a minute ago, I've cried a lot today. Tomorrow, Doug would want me to laugh, so I'll laugh tomorrow.
And you said tomorrow you're going to call up
I'm going to call
as
friends.
many friends of Doug.
I'm going to call some friends of Doug who are friends of mine, and I'm going to get on the phone and make myself feel better and just tell one of hundreds of stories about Doug that I could tell. Doug was so different. We were in Dallas once for a playoff game. Hanslick won it with a jumper. It was a Saturday afternoon game, and my folks lived in Dallas. And so Doug decided we were all going to go to my folks for a barbecue on the pool. So Doug and his assistant coach and Chopper Travellini and a couple players, we all go out there. He had never met my parents, and he just charmed them to death. And we get ready to go, and he gives my father a hug, and he says, "You're such a nice man. How could you have had a dip you-know-what like this kid?"
Such a character. His nicknames. He called his wife Big Jane.
Big Jane.
Big Jane.
Big Jane said she thanks me every day.
He did not say that.
Yes, he did. Let me tell you how lazy Doug was. And, and Jane will laugh, and I always tell this. Doug could get up at 7 in the morning. He would wait for Jane to get up to 9:30 to make the coffee because he didn't want to pour the cereal or make the coffee. He said he perfected the art of doing nothing. And Tom Green and I, who we both love, we just did our podcast today and we cried over it. And he would talk to us on the phone the same way. We'd call him and he'd go, "Ron, I'm really busy right now."
I'm really busy. But I know I'm going to encourage people to listen to the podcast or watch it on YouTube. Woody Page, Tom Green.
Yeah, it was emotional.
Very emotional, but also so heartfelt about a man that was so much more than basketball. Like Tom said on the radio show he did with him, he said, "We rarely talked about basketball."
Yeah, that's the thing with Doug. I spent thousands of hours with Doug, and just a little bit of it was basketball. And the kindness that Doug showed my wife, my kids, that's who he was. And he never big-timed a person, Kim. We've all worked with people who thought they were Doug was the opposite of that. And you know what was great about Doug? I hope I'm not going on too long, but Larry Brown, who I think is the greatest coach ever, Larry was always kind of miserable and wanted to trade everybody. Doug's friends in the NBA used to say, "Doug, your team stinks. You're not going to win any games." And Doug was always, "You're wrong. I got so-and-so." He looked at the positive in everybody. And for people that don't remember, his teams in Denver were terrific. They ran. They played the passing game. We won a ton of games with Doug. And I bet you Michael Malone, who won a championship, I'll predict, will tell you in the next day or two, I'm the second most successful coach of the Nuggets.
To Doug Moe. That was a good way to end it. Ron, I know this has been a tough day.
Hey,
You've shed a
I
lot
got
of
through it
tears
without
today.
crying,
I
Kim.
know
That's
it.
why you're the best.
And me too, which is a
Hey,
miracle.
do me one favor, will you? Next time you have me down to my old Channel 9 stop, how about doing it when one of my friends doesn't pass away?
Okay, I will. We'll just come and just chat.
Just have me down to chat.
But everybody, tell a Doug Moe story tonight. That's
Oh,
a good thing.
tell a Doug Moe story, laugh a little bit, because he's the ultimate big stiff, and he would love to have you goof on him and tell something funny.
That's a good idea. Thank you.
Okay, Kim.
We'll be right back.